Okay, Bridget, very nicely done. I'm looking all over here for your icon, and then I look, oh, there's Brit. What the hell's that red shit? Oh, it's the eyes. Well played, well played. Okay. So.
Yeah, she's messing with us.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Whoa. Hey, now. Wait now. What did you do for me? Wait now. Not funny. Oh my God, it's Blinky. Do it again.
I don't, what are you talking about?
She was blinking from red to plain to red again.
Oh.
That apparently was only for you, because I don't know.
Yeah, she's not blinking on my end, honey. That may be you. What have you been drinking?
No, she's blinking. Cousin is vibing at a higher frequency, so she must be seeing things that we don't.
Yeah, it's not on our end.
Well,
Cousin Ed, I want to know what you've been drinking.
I ain't saying.
Okay.
I ain't saying.
Okay. All right. So it's Friday. Unfortunately, I'm sure you guys have saw the clips. Brazil had an airplane just fall out of the sky. That's crazy as shit. And on probably a more important note, Elon Musk, say what you want about him, just suspended the official UK government for threatening their own citizens. So I think that's newsworthy.
I really missed that because I've been on the Telegram and then outside picking up disaster duty again.
Yeah, so their official UK Gov account has been suspended because he violated X's rules. So there you have it. I know, right? I'm just loving it. What a great day. And
that's pretty funny.
It's hilarious. And we get to talk about our citizens dealing arms to Ukraine and some of the crazy aspects of that today, which was the second part of yesterday's show that we never got to. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to start off with a Ukrainian newspaper article that talks about American arms dealer by the name of Mark, and you spell his name M-A-R-C, Morales, M-O-R-A-L-E-S, is making millions on supplying Ukraine with armaments with the help of senior sergeant of the Ukrainian army who is paid to arrange meetings with his contacts in the government. The source of this particular article was the New York Times article, and we're going to get to that in a second. In the New York Times article, they write that a Florida arms dealer, Mark Morales, who's 51 years old, has been paying Vladimir Koyman, and his last name is spelled Koyfman. His first name is Volodymyr. He is a chief sergeant, whatever the hell that is, in the Ukrainian army to arrange meetings with the officials in the government of Ukraine. That unusual arrangement, which is very unusual, legal experts say, tests the boundaries of American and Ukraine corruption laws prohibiting payments to government officials. Last month, about 6 men met, I don't know, I can get about 6, but whatever, met at a penthouse bar in one of Kiev's most luxurious hotels to discuss the lucrative business of arming Ukrainian troops. As recounted by the New York Times, Two participants in the meeting, Morales and Koipman, were present. The meeting revealed a quiet part of the Biden administration's war strategy. The U.S. has provided Ukraine with over $40 billion in security aid, advanced armaments included. But the Pentagon depends on little-known arms dealers like Morales with connections necessary for obtaining ammunition. The ammunition is mainly of low quality and Soviet caliber, taken from all over the world. Morales and his colleagues' arms trade is notoriously shady and clubby, but it has become even less transparent when Ukraine canceling anti-corruption rules that had been in place for years. Morales is one of the key dealers in Ukraine. The Pentagon has signed contracts worth about $1 billion with his company. The Pentagon has signed contracts of approximately $1 billion with a shady arms company in Florida. It's called Global Ordnance, mainly for ammunition supply. According to records, Morales has made $200 million off of these contracts. However, Morales' company is being investigated by Ukrainian anti-corruption bodies in connection with the agreement that government officials called a failure. In 2009, the U.S. Justice Department accused him of conspiracy and money laundering after he was allegedly caught discussing methods of bribing foreign officials on tape. Quote, "You just got to be smarter than the government," unquote, he was saying on one recording. Bryant Van Brunt, the general counsel for Morales' company, Global Ordnance, said the company had followed the law. Sergeant Koipman, who has many years of experience as a quote-unquote advisor to Ukraine's National Guard. And let me just tell you, the National Guard is actually the Azov battalions and those guys. So we're not even talking about, he was an advisor to the actual army. He was an advisor to the Nazis. And he went to fight for Ukraine when Russia first invaded in 2022. And we know what that means, because if he's part of the Azov battalions, that meant he went to the Ihor Kolomoisky's province, in which was on the then front lines of the Ukraine territory, because the Donbass region was basically going to be protected by Russia. So that's where he went. Documents reviewed by the New York Times show, though his duties were unspecified, Koipman himself said that he was a chief sergeant in the Territorial Defense Forces of Ukraine, which again screams Azov Battalion, because Ihor Kolomoisky was the governor of that province that was then on the front lines of the conflict. Koipman is a key figure to turn to for arms, one government official said, though it's unclear whether it is because of his military position or his role in Global Ordnance. And let me just tell you unequivocally, it is not because of his military position, other than the fact that he was in the Azov battalions. And these are most likely arms that were being bought by or for Ihor Kolomoisky's use of the Azov battalion. In Morales' company, Koipman's role is managing Ukrainian contractors and setting up meetings between our staff and the Ukraine Ministry of Defense. Koipman claims his military work is not paid. Van Brunt stressed that the two jobs had nothing to do with each other. Global does not pay for access, not before, not now, not ever. Those are quotes. Sergeant Koipman reiterated Van Brunt's point. We do training on it every year and sign documents about it. American, yeah, so we're supplying the Nazis, but we pay attention to the paperwork. American companies are prohibited by law from paying foreign officials in exchange for benefiting from benefiting their business. Sergeant Koipman would not be exempt simply because he's a volunteer. The decisive factor is whether or not they have influence. Ukrainian law generally prohibits military officials from engaging in other paid work. Whether the law affects Sergeant Koikman depends not only on his rank, but on his military duties. Early in the war, he said in a letter to Global Ordnance that he was a civilian warfighter rather than a government employee. A civilian, and again, because he's guard, that may actually be true from a technical standpoint. But if he's the representative of the Azov battalions in the National Guard, it is not technically correct. The Ukrainian government allegedly knew about Koikman's work for Global Ordnance. Van Brunt said that Sergeant Koikman has been vetted by the State Department, which is responsible for American weapons exports. Earlier in the full-scale war, Morales also hired Denis Vanash, Vanash, a longtime advisor to the Ukrainian defense minister, to communicate to the defense ministry on behalf of Global Ordnance. Van Brunt said Ukraine's defense ministry confirmed the legality of the hiring. Morales is said to have an unfair advantage over his competitors, although it's not due to his ties to Vanash or Koikman, but thanks to his connection with the Pentagon. Several sources revealed that he outbids rivals to buy explosive shells from Bulgarian arms factories. Okay, so back up just a second. We have, through a series of all of our Operation Gladio, unequivocally proven that Bulgaria, probably secondary only to Israel, is the leading supplier of arms to Operation Gladio today. So this is astounding. Let me read that again. Several sources reveal that he outbids rivals to buy explosive shells from Bulgarian arms factories. Government documents and interviews with arms dealers indicate that he has been supplying missiles, shells, grenades, and armored vehicles to Ukraine from Bulgaria, Egypt, Jordan, and Pakistan. Now, let me redo these. Jordan and Pakistan have been under the control of MI6 and the CIA since their beginning. So basically, we're saying Bulgaria, Egypt, and MI6 and the CIA. They just misspelled it by saying Jordan and Pakistan. And he is not unique in his position as a dealer with connections in the Ukrainian government. Now, keep in mind, Pakistan is where BCCI was. BCCI still exists, but it's not allowed to operate outside of Pakistan. BCCI was the largest financer of arms deals in the world during the time it existed, starting in 1972. Ukraine's frantic buying unexpectedly resulted in a state-owned firms and private dealers being in competition with each other, which made the prices spike, costing Ukraine money. Not Ukraine, us. The government profits when buying weapons from state-owned companies. Brokers profit when they buy from private sellers. One example involved armored vehicles desperately needed by the military as target practice for Russia. I just added that part. Early in the war, Ukrinmash, which is spelled Ukrinmash, a government-owned export company, negotiated a $65 million deal with an Egyptian seller to buy 200 vehicles. A person involved in the deal says, but the deal didn't consummate. At some point, Global Ordnance offered to provide similar vehicles at a similar price, earning the profits instead of the government-owned company. However, the deal caused problems for the military. The vehicles arrived improperly outfitted. anti-corruption bodies began looking into the agreement with Morales in the defense industry and who authorized the contract. The defense ministry said that the investigation had been, quote unquote, eliminated, which of course I find very interesting, since that would be something that would likely happen as a result of they're getting rid of the media and everything else. So I'm going to move on to a second article. There's a total of 3 articles, and each one of them has just a little bit something extra in them. The next one is from Yahoo, and it says, talks about the DOD having spent the $1 billion to this company, and also mentions the guy's name. It says that the U.S. has provided Ukraine with more than $40 billion, including missiles, Patriot air defense systems. And it goes on to mention the same general counsel for those guys. And then we get to the New York Times article. And this article is from last September. It says 6 or so men gathered last month at the swanky Kiev. And the group included Ukrainian military and government officials. The center of attention was the host, which is Mark Morales, who regaled them with stories of his new $10 million yacht called Trigger Happy, and his search for someone to manage his company's 9-digit portfolio. That sucks to have that problem. It talks about another guy that joined the group, and that's the Koifman guy from Ukraine. And it says, let's see, they operate in a shady fashion. And it says Mr. Morales is among Ukraine's most important such suppliers. And let's see. There's a whole bunch of pictures in this. I'll send this article over to Bridget and cousin It so they can post the New York Times one. It doesn't have a thing on it so that you can actually open it up and read it. It says the Justice Department, this was the interesting part to me. So it talks about Morales being 51 and a Pentagon go-to person for arms deals. Now keep in mind, the Pentagon doesn't need anybody for arms deals. They can actually do these deals themselves. The Justice Department indicted Morales in 2009 on conspiracy and money laundering charges after it said he was caught on tape discussing bribes. But it says FBI agents badly botched the case and prosecutors ultimately dropped the charges. Now, what that translates to me is this guy's part of the CIA operation here. This guy is black marketing arms in addition to what he's doing officially. And anytime the FBI agents, quote unquote, botch the case and the charges are dropped, I can give you at least 200 of them that all point back to CIA assets or agents being the ones that were being investigated, and then they were told that they can't prosecute them. This is something that comes up over and over again. But the war changed the calculus for the Ukrainians and Americans. The Biden administration needed massive amounts of arms. And Mr. Morales, who proved in Afghanistan and Syria that he could constantly acquire and deliver arms, as Ukrainian officials with national survival at stake welcomed back local arms dealers whom, before the war with Russia, they had worked hard to sideline, as in not use them. After firing the defense minister, Reznikov, Ukrainian officials are publicly questioning the method of weapons at any cost strategy. Morales declined to be interviewed, but the general counsel said basically, everything's on the up and up. All right. I'm going to go through a couple of documents I found on global ordinance in a minute. Let's see. It talks about a couple of meetings that they had with the defense minister, and there's like a ton of pictures of these guys. And a bunch, they all look goofy. I mean, goofy as hell in these pictures in this New York Times. If you don't do anything else, just open the article and look at the pictures. They're hilarious. This is what my brother-in-law would call goofy bastards. When you just look at them, they're crazy looking. And then there are pictures in here of them going to parties in Tampa. Last year, Global Ordnance posted a video on LinkedIn of Sergeant Koipman in uniform standing beside what he said was a mass grave. "We need artillery. We need rockets," it was quoted as saying. He does not identify himself as an employee of Global Ordnance, which sells rockets and artillery shells. American law prohibits companies from paying officials to benefit from their work. Ukrainian law generally prohibits military officials from engaging in paid work outside. And then asked to confirm that a State Department spokesman only added a new wrinkle. He said that he would not confirm the existence of investigations into possible violations of international trafficking and arms regulations. Separately, Mr. Morales hired the other guy, Banesh. And let's see. Arms dealers from around the world are competing with a limited supply of Soviet-style arms, mostly from Eastern European countries, to sell to Ukraine. With cash pouring in from Washington, Mr. Morales can afford to pay more than his competitors for those same arms. He then makes good on his American contracts and buys more ammunition on his own to sell to Ukraine directly. Some of the competitors, officials, and arms industry figures spoke on the condition of anonymity, either because Ukraine weapons contracts are classified or because they did not want to get drawn into disputes with Mr. Morales. I wouldn't either, especially if it's CIA. There are nothing illegal about outbidding competitors, but it shows how the Pentagon is shaping the global arms market and creating wealthy, politically connected weapons dealers. Ukrainian anti-corruption groups have said that billions of dollars pouring into Eastern European arms markets will shape politics and militaries long after the war is over. In some cases, complaints about Mr. Morales boil down to the fact that he gets more contracts. He has moved missiles, shells, grenades, and vehicles to Ukraine. And he is far from the only weapons dealer with relationships with the Ukrainian government. Mr. Morales's weapons career ended after his indictment was unsealed in 2010. In a sting, prosecutors said an informant recorded him in arms deals involving payment to West African nation Gabon, Gabon. So now I'm going to have to go look that up. He left the industry and about 2 years later sold items like outdoor furniture, which is funny because I'm going to tell you guys something in a second. And it says the outdoor furniture was his father-in-law's. He took time to reflect on his life. And in 2012, the federal case disintegrated. Let's see, a year later, Mr. Morales started Global Ordnance. So that would be 2013. As an arms business consultancy, Drawing on more than a decade of experience, he bought a defense contractor and delivered arms to the Pentagon for use against terrorist organizations like ISIS. His network, spanning the United States, Eastern Europe, and Middle East, proved reliable, and the Pentagon soon became his biggest customer. Global Ordnance won more than $78 million in defense contracts from 2016 to 19. Weeks before, so he actually started this up around 2016, which I find very interesting timing as the Obama administration is going out. Weeks before Russia invaded Ukraine, the Pentagon awarded Global Ordnance a 5-year contract worth up to $750 million to help arm American allies. Now, let me rephrase that. Before the Ukraine-Russia special military operation, before it, the Pentagon had awarded them a Global Ordnance, the company, a 5-year contract of $750 million. And that's with no war. Why would Global Ordnance have a $750 million contract when nothing like that is going on? Because this contract was for basically Operation Gladio type shit that was going on in all of Africa, Syria, and Afghanistan, everywhere else. Mr. Morales' big break in Ukraine came early in the war. He had a warehouse full of ammunition in Bulgaria that the Pentagon had bought for use in Afghanistan. The Pentagon approved sending it to Ukraine in 2022. Mr. Morales, yeah, he just so happened to have an entire warehouse full of ammunition in Bulgaria. Said no one ever. Mr. Morales made...
I thought everybody did.
I guess. We just have been missing out here.
Yeah, I ain't saying.
The unintended consequences of Ukraine's frantic buying drives up price, blah, blah, blah. And then, let's see, there was one other point. Mr. Van Brunt said the Ukrainian authorities routinely investigate military deals. This is in a quote unquote investigation, and to conflate it with what the public may understand to be an investigation would be inaccurate. So when the defense minister was fired because he was leading an investigation using anti-corruption, the Mr. Van Brunt turns around and says, oh, no, it wasn't that kind of investigation where we could actually get in trouble. It was just a routine investigation where they're looking over the paperwork. At the end of last year, Mr. Morales's, which would have been 2022, success was evident at home in Tampa. Global Ordnance flew its employees in from Kiev, Ukraine capital, to attend a Christmas party. Mr. Morales posted on Facebook a picture of himself and his colleague. Sergeant Koipman wore wraparound sunglasses, a black t-shirt with an American flag painted skull. Mr. Vanesh wore a traditional Ukrainian shirt embroidered with red and yellow flowers. Mr. Morales sees a bright future in Ukraine. At the Penthouse Bar last month, conversation turned towards the large contract that were about to be awarded. And Mr. Morales assured them all that his company could handle it. All right. So if you go to Florida Sunbiz and you look up this guy's companies, you're going to find several. The first one is called Global Ordnance Trading, Inc. Global Ordnance Trading Incorporated was set up in, let me get down to it was set up in 2021 in November. Now, this is the company that was supposedly the overarching, it's a foreign profit corporation. But if you don't know that this shit's going to pop off in Ukraine until February of 2022 when it actually happens, why would you set this company up in November of 2021? Number one. And number two, remember what I just read to you and the fact that he was given this contract months before the thing actually popped off as well. So this company has a guy by the name of John Dilley, Dilley, who lives in Sarasota as an officer. He also has a guy by the name of Patrick Martin in Sarasota. And Carrie Morales, evidently his wife, is the vice president of this particular company. And then Mark Morales is the guy that's in charge. The registered agent is a guy by the name of Patrick Martin. And the address where it's principal address, okay? So not the mailing address, because the mailing address is in Sarasota. What is listed as the principal address is a house, what looks to be a house, I'll say that, in Huntsville, Alabama. Then the next document is let's see. This is the document that set up Global Ordnance Training, Inc. And it has a person by the name of Mary Mitchell and Global Military Products, Inc. in Tampa, Florida. And it also lists this Alabama address as well. And the guy by the name of Brian Van Brunt, the one we just kept reading about, who lives in Sarasota, is the one that signed this application for foreign corporation setup and was submitted to Sunbiz. And it has everybody that's part of this at this time in Sarasota. But it then goes on to apply for incorporation in Alabama as well. All right. If you look up, there's another one called Global Ordnance LLC. Global Ordnance LLC was set up in 2014. So that's the one after he got in trouble that he set up to get back into the game. And this particular one is registered in Sarasota. And all of the mailing addresses for this one is when it was originally set up, was in Apollo Beach. So the only address I could find in Alabama actually was a house at the end of a cul-de-sac, like in a subdivision, which is supposed to be an actual business address. But the one that I found most interesting based on what I just read to you guys is the address that they used as the place of business, which is a bunch of warehouses in Sarasota. Do you know what's sitting right out in front when you Google Earth it? A outdoor furniture store. So the arms company is registered to the warehouses behind the furniture company that his wife's parents own is sitting out in front. So I found that very interesting, which is how I knew I was at the right place, because you read little things like that and you just kind of obviously put two and two together. So anyway, this guy has some very interesting and shady He has actually 3 active companies in Florida right now. He has Global Ordnance LLC, he has Global Ordnance Holdings LLC, and he has Global Ordnance Trading Incorporated. And each one of them basically has pretty much the same people in charge of them. And the dates of what we just read all work out as well to definitely unequivocally say these are his companies. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I wanted to let you know where all of your hard-earned tax dollars are going. You're paying to enrich these third-party arms dealers. And what's really weird about this is companies, and I want to make sure you guys understand this. When we sell stuff like F-16s or F-15s or C-130s, there are military officers that sit in embassies of countries, and they are basically our arms sellers. They work and facilitate the approval through the State Department, and it's basically military foreign sales. And there's an entire department in the Pentagon that works on this. And they work with Lockheed or Boeing or whatever, and they arrange these sales as a country to country purchasing agreement. Now, what is apparent from this article is that, and I really am interested in the timing of this because we know that most of their black ops, like through cutting down of the Sicilian mafia that we talked about that was dismantled in 2019. There's so much of the Gladio network that they had been using that's been disrupted. It makes me wonder if they are not using these third-party cutouts in order to skim money for their black ops in some form or fashion, because this is highly unusual. For the Pentagon to be using cutouts like this when they have official military sales capability already existing is very, very odd. I'm just going to say that. Highly unusual. So anyway, that's what I have. And I wanted to share that with you guys. And we're going to open it up for you guys. Since it's Friday, we're just going to talk about whatever. If you guys have something that you want to talk about that's not related to this, this is going to be Open Mic Friday. Come on up.
I was going to say thank you for having such an awesome space again. And these banks are getting exposed. Thank you for Operation Gladio glasses. Holy cow, yesterday and today. Whoa.
It's weird how watching, especially this Smartmatic thing happen, knowing what we know and the particular countries that it's happening in that have been affected, it just is really eye-opening.
Yeah, I'd be curious to find out the flight manifest of who was on that plane that went down today too, and where it was at, and the exposure of Smartmatic being out there now even more so than it was before, and the ties with Dominion too, and then these states that are filing lawsuits stating that they're no good. So I mean, Nevada's one of those states. So I've been posting all that stuff over to our GOP and even to the Democrats as well, doing whatever I can.
Yeah, the aircraft was an internal Brazil flight. from kind of like the southwest area over to Sao Paulo. So it would be interesting if there's any government officials that was on that plane. It was a French aircraft. It's called a ATR 72-500 turboprop. But man, it went down. It was like a gyro hard landing in a helicopter. It was spinning. I mean, almost like one engine went out and they lost the ability to control it because it's just spiraling down. It was a crazy crash. Bridget, go ahead. Bridget?
Did we lose her?
I don't know.
Bridget. Bridget, it's like calling for golfing.
Yeah.
No, you might have to drop her out. Up, okay.
All right, I'll do that. Go ahead, SR-71, while I'm bringing Bridget back up.
Just one question, Colonel. Maybe you can answer it for me. How do these people get away with or get around our Arms Export Control Act, the AECA?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, they didn't get around it. There were charges brought. And then what happens is the CIA steps in and says, yeah, you can't charge him because he's working with us and quote unquote national security. And so then they just tell all of us, oh, well, yeah, the case fell apart. And so we're dropping the charges. And then they're allowed to operate absent any control at all. Bridget, what do you got?
Oh, actually, Stellar stole half of my question, and half of my question was that it was so bizarre to see a plane drop out of the sky like a rock.
Yeah.
I guess you always think that they're going to glide down, but is that normal? I mean,
it is not normal for them to spiral like that. Generally speaking, so every aircraft has a glide ratio. The heavier, the bigger the aircraft, the less glide ratio they have. So they're pretty much like a straight down. But there are some aircraft, especially if you just have like on a C-130, when you lose a single engine, you still, I mean, you can fly right along as long as you maintain control of the aircraft. We actually lost multi-engines on one flight that I was on. And again, I was not in aircraft maintenance any longer. I'd already become an officer and I was flying on a C-130. And knowing what I know about aircraft maintenance, as soon as the first engine went, I knew it was gone. Because you just know, you can tell by the noise and or the sound. And when we lost the second one, I was like, oh, son of a bitch. And I'm looking at the loadmaster, who's the guy that kind of walks around the aircraft and makes sure that everything stays secure, because it was, in the middle of a war zone. And I look at him and I'm like, what's going on? And he kind of looked at me like, how do you know? Because they hadn't made any announcements or anything. There was a bunch of us, probably about 50 of us in jump seats on the aircraft. And then there was cargo all out in the middle of it. And I looked at him and I said, I was in aircraft maintenance for 8 years. I know what's going on. What the hell's happening? And he's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's happened before. And I'm like, not on any airplane I've ever been on. But again, a C-130 will have quite a long glide path. But I found out when one crashed off the coast of Oregon, it's been decades ago now, and we lost everybody on it except for one. It was from the reserve wing in Portland, coming back from an overseas mission. And I found out as a fly on the wall in one of the investigations debriefs to the chief of the Air Force Reserve that the only glide test that had ever been done was almost kind of like an AI version of it. And they had practiced using a model aircraft, like basically landing in a large bathtub, as an experiment on what the glide ratio was if they like stall engines, like if there's a fuel problem or whatever. And it was all hypothetical, not, they had never done an actual test. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm not I'm not an expert on aircraft crashes, but I'm thinking that if you and you actually do in simulators in C-130s simulate losing all engines, and the simulation is based on this hypothetical thing that you don't even know, it was never validated. So pilots all thought that if you lose all of your engines on a C-130, that you have, based on the simulator training, X amount of flight path and how you could actually land it in water, that it was theoretically possible because they practice it on simulators. Well, we found out the hard way that's actually not possible, because the glide ratio on a C-130 was not anything like it had been in the simulator, and the thing just dropped. And there was a lot of speculation as to why they it's a long story, but basically fuel stopped flowing to all of the engines at the same time. Of course, they never find out that it's manufacturer error. It's always blamed on the flight crew, always, 100% of the time, even though this particular flight crew had like an average of 25 years flying C-130s and never any of them had ever had a mishap at all. They were blamed, which in reality is 100% bullshit, and more likely that it was a problem with the aircraft itself. But that is never the finding, just FYI. So no, I've never seen, I see helicopters do hard landings in video all the time. When I was sitting at CENTCOM before the 9/11, when you had CAT exercises where you sit at the command post, you have access to all of the video from the engagements that had happened via CENTCOM in the past. So like Desert Storm 1, you can pull up folders and watch like missile honing in on comm sites in southern Iraq. You can see Apache gunship video. You can see 130 AC-130 gunship video of them just knocking shit out. And so, you know, if you had the night shift, that's what everybody did. They watched the gunship videos. And there are actual, if we, like one of the A-10s made like an incredible landing. It had like 52 holes in it. It had been shot up, but managed to make it back to the base. So you can see all of the videos of things like that that are in the files there. And so I've seen several helicopter hard landings in those videos that come down spiral, and sometimes people survive and sometimes they don't, depending on how hard it is. And that's how I learned that helicopters don't actually crash, they have hard landings. And I'm like, what the hell, that looks like a crash to me if everybody dies. Oh no, that's a hard landing. So that's kind of a joke in the
That's crazy.
yeah. So anyway, SR-71.
Thank you, Colonel. I do have a question concerning military flights. When a military aircraft goes down, who actually does the investigation?
The military.
So
I mean,
are we saying at this point in time, it's up to military discretion as to what they want to reveal?
Well, I mean, in theory, but we have, and it used to be, I don't know if it's still at Kirtland, the Air Force investigation agency that investigates all Air Force military crashes. I mean, I know a guy, one of my best friends was assigned there for 4 years. And according to him, there are investigations where they will release the results of the investigation where the majority of the people doing the investigation do not agree with the overall findings. That has happened. As a matter of fact, one of my best friends' husband's brother was killed in an F-16 crash where it was a single aircraft crash in the Adriatic Sea off the coast of Aviano Air Base in northern Italy. He died, and there was, of course, they ruled it pilot error because they never find anything wrong with the aircraft. And I can't reemphasize that enough. That is 100% bullshit. But it is 100% the truth. And they attributed it to, a lot of other things going on, and made a bunch of excuses for that. So I can't say that it is without, most of the people understand what the risks are. If you're a pilot, if your aircraft goes down and you die, you're going to be at fault unequivocally. Carrie, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I just had a question. I just learned the other day that a CIA agent died in the plane crash over Lockerbie, Scotland. I didn't know that.
Didn't I post one of the things about that?
What?
I think I posted a thread about that.
You did? I believe you did. Learned about it.
Yeah.
I just learned about it by this supposed ex-CIA agent that was being interviewed.
Cool.
That's and Colonel, who was blamed for that? Iran?
The Lockerbie one?
I mean, I know they blamed Libya, but who in reality was responsible? Because the dude was coming from the CIA agent was coming from the Mideast.
So there was a lot of it was a, what's the best way to explain it? What they believe happened is it was basically a takedown of that aircraft based on who was on it. And there are multiple people that were on it, not just that one CIA agent, that they would have wanted to get rid of. So there were people that were put on it, redirected.
Carrie, you have a hot mic. Can you mute your mic, Carrie?
There were people at the last minute that were put on that, redirected onto that airplane. So there, unbeknownst to all of us, there was a drug run that was being carried out from the Libyan area into Europe and then on to New York City. There was satchels that were being carried by like 18-year-olds. And they were traveling under the auspices that they were like college students or whatever. And they had specially marked satchels. And the way it went was they would arrive with the satchel. One satchel would be sent through the baggage area, or like where you're going through the personal, it's carry-on. So it would be checked there, but there would be somebody on the other side of it, inside of the security, there was a place where they would sit down, like at a table or whatever. Those satchels would be switched out, and that satchel would have drugs. And the drugs was then ferried into New York City. And this was like a steady flow of drugs, not like one satchel a day. This was like a massive amount of drugs being done on a circular fashion. And it had been going on for quite some time. That they speculate that in order to take this aircraft down, one of those satchels that was put into play behind security actually had the bombs that were detonated that brought that aircraft down. And it was done as an assassination of the people that they had decided that needed to be taken out that was on that aircraft. Libya had nothing to do with it. Two of the individuals that were later charged were Libyan citizens that were doing that drug running. But according to them, and I've listened to tapes of them, they thought they were like doing something like money laundering or something like that. They had no idea that they were actually, because they'd never looked in the satchels. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but they didn't know exactly what they were doing. And that's the reason why Omar Gaddafi would never extradite them to stand trial. They were found guilty in absentia, wherever they ended up having that trial. But anyway, Shannon, go ahead.
Hi, Colonel. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You know, I've been following you for a while and I spoke with you in some spaces earlier. I just want to say I got such a kick when I found out that X is Grok, when it associated your name with Operation Gladio. I was just like,
what?
Like, yeah. On if you do a search for who is Colonel Tanner Watkins, it has you associated with Operation Gladio.
Well, I guess I'm not surprised since that's about all I post about.
No, but I mean, it's much more than that, obviously. It kind of goes into like a little Wikipedia of yourself. But I said, boy, you know, she's made it. When she hit the X-based version of Grok, and it has you, I was right at the top, especially
That's
with
hilarious.
Operation Gladio. And it goes into a little bit of a spiel about you. So I just want to kind of give you a congrats on that. Because, you know, it's all about exposure and what you're about. So I just want to kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. The other thing is, I'm a U.S. patriot, and I'm the one that has a military family as well. And I'm the one that my great uncle went in as an officer for the Vietnam War, lost his arm. And my great uncle, of course, did not get well received on the return home back to the States, as most Vietnam vets did not. And I remember asking you, because I think Guru was on, and I said, have you done any Operation Gladios on, he asked about Australia, and I asked about Canada, because I'm a U.S. patriot living in Canada, because my ex was Canadian. And you said, no, you had not done. I just want to let you know, I work for a consulting engineering company called Davy International, which is underneath the umbrella company of Trafalgar House, which you know that they are totally dirty out of the UK.
Yes.
And they built Trafalgar Bridge, right?
Yep.
Well, guess who one of our clients was? Rio Tinto.
Oh, God.
So I'm an Operation Gladio geek from way back. I was so excited when you brought this up. I've been studying Operation Gladio for a while, the whole Paul Wallace thing, and I'm just like totally immersed in it. And Rio Tinto, you know, is dirty, dirty, dirty. Not only just with child slavery and trafficking, they are dirty. And I've been doing a lot of studying on that. And I just want to know, you know, if you'd like to go further into studying for Canada, because there's total Operation Gladio through the connection of Rio Tinto, and also Davy Canada Incorporated, which is the consulting company that I actually work for, and corruption all over the place there.
So yeah, that would be awesome. And I will get back with you separately, but yeah, we came across Rio Tinto a long time ago. When we were researching UNESCO and the WWF and the whole mining of in general, because you've got Freeport and you have several of these massive mining organizations that are part of the international syndicate that are the ones that are controlling all of the, picking up the red phone to the CIA saying, I want this leader taken out because he's going to cancel my concessions. And that's literally how this whole operation works. So yeah, I'd love to be able to work with you on that.
Yeah. And I actually worked with some of the top mining engineers that were over in a lot of those slave mines. And one of the big top names, he's really well known. He's probably either passed away or gone to Neverland, I'm not sure. Steve Harapiak. And I remember he would come back what he called the bush. And he would tell me these stories about, like I would have to work with him to clean up his language before the client meetings because, all they know is the F-bombs, right? And I'm like, Mr. Harapiak, you can't talk like that. He said, Shannon, in the bush with all these children and everything that we got, where I go, excuse me, what did you say, sir? He says, well, they give us whatever help they got. So I did a full stop with that. And I kind of put in the back of my head, being newly married and working for this engineering company, I was just like, what did he just say? So I just want to let you know, Rio Tinto been digging right into it. And I think it'd be great to kind of blow up Canada because they're always one of these ones that act like, oh, it's only US that has dirty laundry. Okay. Canada's got a lot of dirty laundry. And I know that working for this consulting engineering company. So yeah,
well, Canada,
I'd love for you to go into that.
Canada has the contract with Haiti that they can't exercise because of the Haitian constitution. And Hillary Clinton's brother was partners with that particular mining company that supposedly had been contracted to by the government that was overthrown to go in and actually find out if Haiti had gold, which they did. And then, they have billions and billions of dollars worth of gold, but they're not allowed to mine it. And so the whole idea of destabilizing Haiti at the current time is to be able to overthrow the government, install a patsy government, get them to change the constitution. So the mining company that has the concession there already can go in and basically steal all of their gold. And that is a Canadian company.
Yeah. Well, I just want to let you know, I work for this international company. You can look them up or you can have Bridget or somebody do it. But Davy Canada Incorporated was the consulting engineering company that I work for. Okay. And it's all these senior engineers, when they kind of done their little stints in all their engineering companies, they formed this company to be consulting. And we would have what they call they didn't call it black ops. I now know it's called black ops money, where they would have me in my marketing proposals, put money on the side. It was labeled miscellaneous. And I would say, oh, we got to report back to John Murphy, our comptroller. So what's this miscellaneous money? On this side, I was told by our senior geologist that, oh, Shannon, this is like your money that we have to give in order to get our proposals, our EPCM, which is the Engineering, Procurement, Construction Management proposals, slips through so we can get presented before
it's our bribe money
contract. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, they can use all the euphemisms they want. It was bribe money. Now I would say bribe / black op money, because basically when we had projects in Kazakhstan and in Kyrgyzstan, this was the stuff that was going on. And Rio Tinto, we had as one of our top one clients, and them were all over it. We also worked with some subcontractor companies called Stone and Webster, which were a part of the INCO SO2 abatement project, where so-called Prince Charles came over and tapped the furnace, right, in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. So all of that stuff, now looking back, I said, oh my goodness, were their hands all in it? And then the umbrella companies, Trafalgar House, which, that they were building, the London Bridge, and that dirty all over the place in that. So I just thought it would be a great thing to bring Canada out to, people need to wake up here, and they need to know what's going on. That Operation Gladio is, yes, it's in Canada, and I work for an engineering company that has their hands with clients all over it. So cool. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know I was thinking of you on this, and it's been bothering me, and the Lord's brought it on my heart that it needs to be exposed.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So much love to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I see Frogger. What's going on, Frogger? You working?
You know me, just putting together my quarterly business plan for the end of the year and my first quarter for next year. But there's a lot of good stuff going on right now. I see that Smart Tech, they got exposed. So more Gladio stuff with the election fraud and the coup against our country is just unfolding everywhere. So that kind of has me excited right now. I mean, I literally am looking at Georgia and all these other states and all the fraud being brought out into the open. And it's like,
It does
all
seem,
you've been saying.
yeah, it does
Go ahead.
seem like it's coordinated, not like it does. It seems like coordinated is not the right word. It does seem like we're reaching a crescendo where Smartmatic is going crazy. Georgia just was standing on the steps saying that Trump won because of everything that just got exposed there. And Tina Peters' trial is ongoing in Colorado. It does seem like so much is going on right now that is culminating in something huge.
Yeah, it's the time release of the information right around the election so people can be aware. It really feels like all of this stuff is being brought out in.
Maybe paper ballot?
Well, Virginia just said they're using paper ballots.
Yeah, look at Pennsylvania, Arizona. What happened with Nevada with the electors, charges going away because of the obvious fraud.
Oh, no, they put them back up. The fraudulent AG went after them again. And he's appealing whatever. But even more importantly, he's the one who's going after those people that were in Virginia City that were minding their own P's and Q's, and a woke person came up and started harassing them and trying to provoke them. And when they did, he's the one who pressed charges against those people. So if you see the whole video, you'd be like, what the fuck? So yeah, Nevada's still really bad. But with the stuff that's going on with Smartmatic and Dominion, most of the swing, like these states that are important to, that had all these different issues, we have Smartmatic and Dominion machines here in Nevada. That's what we vote on. So yay, maybe paper ballots.
Yeah,
and, yeah. So
that would be awesome. SR-71, what you got?
Thank you, Colonel. What I can say about Virginia and paper ballots is here in Fairfax County, they've always had paper ballots. Of course, they get fed into a scanner, and the scanner does its thing, says, yep, you voted. Before, at one point, these scanners used to validate your ballot for you so you could see exactly what was on the ballot and what you actually chose. They no longer do that. My concern out of all of this is even though Governor Youngkin has passed all of this stuff, concerning what we've seen with DDoS attacks and CrowdStrike, obviously to me, the minute you go to vote, somebody's sitting behind the terminal there checking the voter rolls to see, okay, you are who you are and you live here and yeah, I got your ID and all that good stuff. I'm more concerned about, okay, what happens if there's a DDoS attack at your precinct? How
Well,
are they going to validate voters?
Well, if that actually happened and you are voting on paper ballots, it's just a matter of everybody's. I'm sorry? If you're voting,
Go ahead.
if you're voting on paper ballots, it's just a matter of getting them all out and counting them. The problem comes if the entire system is electronic, where there are no hard copies, which is what was happening in many of the places. Because here in Florida, we actually are handed a ballot when we come in, and we mark that ballot, and it is fed into a counter. But all our operation does is count the actual ballots electronically. We don't vote on machines. We vote on a paper ballot.
I agree with that, Colonel. what I'm getting at is, how do they validate you're eligible to vote?
Well, at my precinct, you have to give them, you have to have already registered and you have to give them your ID when you come in.
Yes, and they check your registration how?
By the ID and my name being on the register when I come in and I have to sign in.
Okay, that register list, is it paper? Is that somebody sitting behind the terminal?
It's paper.
Okay, here is somebody sitting behind the terminal.
Yeah, ours is a printed out register of everybody in that precinct. And they divide it into three. There's 3 desks when you come in, and the alphabet is divided into 3 categories. And you just go to the one that you're like, I go to the W one, and they pull up my name's out on there. I sign in, I show them my ID, and they hand me my paper ballot. That's how they do it in Florida. So if the system ever went down, they obviously have the ability to just pull all of the ballots out of that box and count them that night. As a matter of fact, I would think, and I'm just like talking off the top of my head, I would think that if you had a massive cyber attack where only the states that do it like I just described, where you actually have real paper ballots and they're on site there in order, and even if you had, like I said, the electronic counter, you could still count them at the end of the night. What I think would be very interesting is if they actually scheduled a cyber attack, they being the black hats, on election day in order to totally screw it up. You know, within whatever it is, the next 24 hours, all they would, or however long it would take, all they would have to do is have the ability to print ballots, show once and for all that paper ballots actually work. They can be printed, counted, like everybody else in the world does it now, that uses paper ballots and can figure out how to count them before midnight of that same night. Where, how big of a deal would it be that if only the states that actually physically have paper ballots were able to report the returns? I mean, I think that would be huge. And I think it would leave an everlasting scar on the psyche of America, that you can't leave something as sacred as our voting to a machine. So I don't know. Anyway, anybody else have anything? So I'm going to do a little bit more digging on some of the other contractors that have popped up since 2022 that is getting these defense contracts. There's a system that's at Fort Belvoir in Virginia under the Defense Contracting Management Agency, DCMA, that you can actually go in and look at all of the defense contracts, and you can do it by certain categories. And I think it would be very interesting to see for arms who has been getting these contracts since during the fiscal year 2022, and maybe even go back to 2021, just so you could see the differences in the amount of people and the amount of money. Because I'm suspecting that this Morales guy is not the only one. And I think it would behoove us to look into that and know how much of that's going on. Because the thing that struck me the most about this is it highlighted all of the stuff we've uncovered, like Bulgaria and some of the other countries, Pakistan. It's always the same players, like Bridget says. It's the patterns. So anyway, do you have anything else, Cousin It?
No, me, I'm off down rabbit holes.
Okay. Frogger, when's your next spaces?
Yeah, I might be doing one tonight. There's a lot going on. I was thinking about doing a space on Inflation Reduction Act. And yep, exactly. And the $3 billion that they got from the EPA, they used to fund radical hate groups. So I saw some congressman that did a press conference, and there's so much golden nuggets in that she's doing, and I'll probably cover all the AI videos they're using with their fake support and things like that. The fact that they can't get people to go to their events, so they have concerts so they can look like they have a crowd, and the crowds aren't even as big when you actually scan the crowds. People are looking at it, and there's a lot of AI action. Plus, Stella and I are going to be going to see Kamala tomorrow, so it's perfect timing because she's supposed to be in Las Vegas, and I guarantee you her support without a concert is going to prove to be, I'm going to get it on video so people can see it first and foremost, that it's completely fake.
Well, you know what's really weird?
I just want to throw out there that Marty Clown posted something about you and me and his interaction in the space. And Chad Thugzilla was holding his space saying Marty actually wants to have a microphone, and it's him and Flynn and another dude flipping off Marty, and they tagged him. It's beautiful. So, just want to throw that out there.
Dang, where's that at? I missed that.
That guy's messing with the wrong person. I will own him. I cannot wait. I will absolutely own him. I was trying to be nice. He's a good journalist, but now he's actually just accusing Flynn and those people of stuff he cannot justify, which to me is just, he's a gaslighter. He's a liberal cuck gaslighter.
All right, well, tag me on that. I missed that.
Oh, yeah, I will tag you on it for sure because it was sent to me by Tough. And I decided to be into your space instead of go blow that dude up. So that might be my next stop. But I'm busy working on some quarterly forecasting, but might have to blow that dude up.
I guess.
I try to stay out of it, but when it comes to Jim Sewer Rat, people like Marty, people that are gaslighting what's going on, it's our turn to fight and get back at them.
I guess. Go ahead, Cousin It.
Thank you.
Bridget said that he's a spook. The way he went down the list of arguments.
Oh, yeah.
Until which actually she's right. But I'm still going to go with my first assessment, and the guy's just a dick. But Colleen did ask for a mic. Okay. So, Colleen, I don't know if you know to raise your hand or how that works, but you're up, hon.
Okay, thanks. This is unrelated to earlier information. I've been noticing a lot about the Tulsi Gabbard surveillance coming out. And right. Tulsi has had to maintain at least a secret for her position this whole time. If they're labeling her as a domestic or potential alleged domestic terrorist, how are they doing this? How did it not affect her clearance? And who's pulling these strings?
So the clearances is done using an independent entity. And depending, if she only has a secret, it's only done every 10 years. If she has a TSSCI, it's done every 5 years. So just because the U.S. Marshals would have a register of some bullshit that they're saying, yeah, you got to watch these people. That's not, and like with most government systems, they don't all interface with each other. So it is quite possible one government agency can have you. I mean, they just had the one guy that supposedly he's on the terror watch list get let in the country, right? So that's supposedly he's Pakistani, but they say, oh, he touched base and had a family in Iran too, so he's Iranian in order to make the allegation against Iran when he's actually Pakistani. He's not Iranian.
That's kind of the core of what I'm getting at. Do we know who is kind of monitoring? So
but I'm
Iraq
telling
and
you, there's
Afghan-
nobody that's monitoring all of it, because the marshals is who was tracking her and supposedly had labeled her as a potential domestic terrorist. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the internal part of the military and the awarding of a secret clearance, because our clearance paperwork is not ran through the marshal's office.
I understand, but if but typically, if there's some kind of red flag, it'll pop on the NTAC.
Not
from what I understood.
if
And I
it
don't know
depends
who
on
has that
if the
contract.
it depends on if the systems are talking to each other. I am not aware of a U.S. Marshal system interfacing with the clearances system at all. Now, I know some of the stuff in the FBI system flows over, but not all of it. And you have to be so far in a process even for any of it to flow over. So if they open a file on you, it doesn't automatically flow over. You have to go so far down that process of them basically determining you are unequivocally a threat before it's going to flow over. You see what I'm saying? So not all systems even talk to each other.
Okay.
So
right. I'll dig on some of it a little bit. There's a part of that that bothers me. There are certain people that when they fly, they have that, what is it, the quadruple S?
Yeah, quad S.
That get harassed. But the bottom line is somebody has to be causing that flag on that system. Who told the marshals to put her on surveillance?
Oh, unequivocally. Everything about it is wrong. I was just addressing specifically about the clearance. It may or may not have anything to do with her clearance because of whether or not and how far down in the system that designation has to go in order to flow over to affect your clearance. That's all I was talking about. The entire thing's fucked up. To have someone in our military that has been designated as a potential domestic terrorist, that's totally messed up. They are unequivocally, diabolically opposite of each other. It should never be allowed to happen at all. She is either allowed to be in the Army Guard or she's not. And if she's allowed to be in the Army Guard, you cannot in any way, shape, or fashion say that she's a domestic terrorist. That's just absolutely ludicrous on the surface. I'm not even talking about any technicalities. That's just ridiculous. But I can also tell you that when I was retired, almost immediately is when all of that shit started coming out saying that like in the 2008 2009 timeframe 2010 where Barack Obama was saying, and they were releasing through the FBI, that basically everybody that had just recently got off active duty, based on the fact that we'd all been deployed and part of war, that we were all potentially a domestic terrorist. And that we needed to be looked at. Extra scrutiny needs to be given to gun applications. And if you're a former military and you're applying for a gun permit, you kind of move up higher. And I'm like, fuck you. I had a gun for 30 years. You trained me how to use a gun, and now you're telling me I'm potentially a domestic terrorist? Yeah, everything about it's stupid.
I agree. And it's weird because it's been a process. Like you were saying 2010, I think it goes back probably a little further than that, because it takes a while to sort out and groom the people at the top that caused a lot of the leadership or lack of leadership issues that we have going on right now. And, an irregular line unit,
Colleen,
you may not.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying it started then. That's the only time I paid attention to it because I was retired.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's just, really just been bothering me. And there's certain things I've tried to block out for years because they make me crazy. So if I start digging on it, I don't know what'll happen. But I just feel like there's some kind of weird connection because in a regular line unit, it's not quite as obvious. But when you get into some of psychological operations, civil affairs, special forces, some of the more specialized things, and people who interface with a lot of USAID and embassy and stuff like that, there's a whole different breed. I'm in a private civil affairs published paper group, and they are so far extreme and so to the left on like Ukraine and everything. It's scary. So it kind of like I'm new to your account and to the group and everything, but there's some of it that has really resonated. So I appreciate the opportunity to learn more and to ask questions. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay. If that's everybody, we'll watch for Trump Frog's spaces later tonight, and make sure you tune in to the Colonel's Corner tomorrow at 7, where we're going to talk to Ivan Rankin. That should be lots of fun. I'm actually looking forward to that.
Me too. Froggy, don't forget to tag me too.
You know I got you guys, of course. You're the fam.
He's my favorite.
Wait a minute.
A little bit spicy.
Well, no, it's two of us.
Spicy like me, so of course she's gonna like me because sometimes people just piss me off, and you can't always be nice to assholes because I see what they're doing.
That's true.
And once Marie gets her stuff done, we'll get back to doing her spaces as well. I'm just trying to be selective, but I guess it's time to ramp it up and just do Kamala. And I'm going to do a Tim Mull space as well, I think, separate, because he's a whole beauty in himself. Mr. Horse guy. Mr. Ed Lover.
Seriously. Just like 4 kinds of disgusting. What a pig.
All right. On that note, we're out of here.
Too. That's the part that they're not telling the real story.
Wait a minute. Marie is here and requesting a mic. Marie, hurry the hell up. Where have you been?
People always do that. It's like, okay, I got to go. And then all of a sudden, hands start flying out like it's, the lunch line at school.
Hey, brother. I'm currently, my profession, like my real job, my day job, I ride horses. And so Tim Waltz has ruined a lot of things. I'm literally sitting on a horse and you're like, Tim Waltz. And I'm like, so gross.
You could never be invited in my barn. I'll tell you that right now.
Hell no. You'd have is there such thing as like a, I don't know, like a horse veto? I don't even know.
Well, sorry, Marie. I actually did a post. I don't know if you just seen my post, Shannon Sophia, but I did a expose on him as well, and I've been pounding it for that freak. When he just signed a bill that's going to remove parents' rights, that they know what's right for their children, and then this whole transgen and late-term abortions, I ripped him up. You have to look at the little dirty laundry I just digged up with him, with an article from his heydays from West Point. So just to let you know.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you just hear that Trump's plane made an emergency landing in Billings due to a mechanical problem?
No, ma'am. And I was just over on Truth, too. So I'll go check that right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say with the Tim Waltz, it's like he kind of snuck in under the radar. He's got some, the veterans that are coming out that really tried to come out in 2018 and all got stifled. Of what a coward he was when he found out he was going to Iraq. But he reminds me of like the East Coast Gavin Newsom. and how he's flown under the radar when Gavin's been this big expression of everything we don't want. But they mirror each other with their choices and their decisions. And it's just, oh God, they both give me the creeps. And I seriously have gone to every horse I train, and I train a ton of them. And I'm like, I'm so sorry people like this exist in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
And golfing, September, it's probably going to be, I've got football and my schedule's just, I've got so many horse shows this month. But I would love to, share that story about that kid with Tourette's, because he's completely symptom free. It's pretty amazing.
That's exciting. I definitely want to hear about that. And yeah, football season's coming up. I'm sure you're a Ducks fan, so it's going to be a great year. So we can talk all about it. Just kidding.
My 5-year-old's playing this year, and they're doing Pop Warner, and our coaches are really thorough. So it's not like they're just throwing them to the wolves. But if you've ever seen 5- and 6-year-olds with pads and helmets on, it's like a little bobblehead army. And it is the greatest thing. Like, I secretly whisper charge when they run to get water, because they all just at the same time. Hey, I'm going to be down south too at the end of this month, first part of September, golfing. I'll be like a couple hours from y'all. So
nice. Well, then you can just journey a couple more hours closer, and we can get together. Tell Skinny to bring his bearded butt down here, and tell him that we'll bring Poppy Trumpo. Maybe he'll show up, since he was blocked by him. He's never going to live that down. Yeah, I would love to connect with you and meet you in person and shake your hand. That is for sure. And I know that Stella, more than anyone, since you're cousins, would like.
I'm going in for a hug, dude.
Yeah,
so I hope you don't mind.
I'm a hugger. Don't worry.
Okay. Good. I was going to get in Stellar's ear and be like, you want to come to Pioche for Labor Day. You want to come visit. Put golfing in the car.
Hey, hey guys, I'm gonna jump right in real quick because I know the Colonel is on a schedule, but I did want to let whoever knew popped in about an emergency landing in Montana. Okay, that didn't happen. Trump is like speaking from the plane and saying he just got there and everything's fine. So nobody panic.
Yeah, he landed okay. There was a hydraulic leak and they had to go. I don't know. I've just seen like 4 reports on it.
Good job on the research, keeping the fear porn at a minimum to no. Good job.
Yep, just posted on the billboard there. Everything's fine, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for getting on that.
You bet. Sorry, Marie, I didn't mean to interrupt you and Froggy.
No, it's okay. I'm more to listening right now anyway.
She just had to speak up for the horses.
Well, yeah. I still can't. I just can't with these people.
Okay.
Just when I think they have like become the abomination like you never thought imaginable, they come up with something else. It's astounding, really. It's like they try to outdo each other as to how disgusting they can each be. I just don't get it.
I know. I used to ride horses professionally, and I tell you what, when I saw it, I literally, you should check out my post. I literally said, hands off the horses.
That's crazy. You could actually do a spaces just going down through these X feeds and reading these highlights. Someone just posted the Amuse person at Amuse. What is going on with the Secret Service? High-end salon was forced to shut down for the day so Kamala Harris could attend a fundraiser without permission. A female Secret Service agent broke into the salon, disabled the camera, and turned it into a public restroom. That bitch would be laying flat out on the ground if that was my salon.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, good God. I got nothing.
Guys, just be calm about this stuff. I'm an IT geek, and I'm telling you, a lot of this stuff is CGI stuff. So just do your research.
Oh, we're not calm. I love reading through these things. I just think they're hilarious. The more these people in every one of these organizations, the more they do to discredit. I mean, there's video camera. That's not even up for debate. There's actually video on here showing them doing it. I think that what is happening is the exposure of all of these organizations that either need to be completely restructured or done away with altogether is coming out in a massive overflowing of information in order to prep the battlefield for once Trump takes office and begins paring back the federal government. So we're going to see more and more and more of government corruption just spill out into the opening, because that has to happen in order for us to have the wherewithal and the ability to support the closing down of these functions. And I just see all of this as part of a disclosure effort. And the more it happens, the more it's going to happen, because people will be emboldened by actions that other people take. So I just see it happening more and more.
I agree. And with us going actually to Republic, Colonel, you're absolutely right. Because like I said, many times I know even myself, I was taught to respect authority. And it used to be show an FBI badge. Oh yeah, okay, sure, come on in, take my weapons, okay, whatever. Those days are done.
Yeah. Yep, they've shown themselves to be who they truly are. So, all right. Anyway.
Hey, one second. I'm just reading. England police say they will extradite and imprison Americans over social media posts.
They've already asked for that to happen. They'd have to be given approval to extradite, but and I just don't see that happening. You know, we didn't extradite. Shut up. We didn't shut up. We didn't extradite Marcinkus, who was basically embezzling all of the money from the Vatican and doing the money laundering. He was allowed to die off in Arizona in complete peace of old age. So surely they're not going to extradite someone for making a social media post.
Yeah, and Hand, right, who's living in Idaho, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, right.
Right. And then had a warrant from Australia for how many years? Right? Oh, but mean tweets. We're gonna send everybody over for mean tweets. Oh yeah, fuck that.
Yep.
I just said, I just tweeted, well, we had a revolution against the British before, time to do it again. Eradicate Five Eyes.
Oh, I agree 100%. Close Pine Island. Is it? Oh, Pine Gap, not Pine Island. Pine Island is another place.
Oh God, that place. Oh, that's a horrible place. I hate that place.
I know, right? All right, guys. We're gonna call it a day. Thanks for everybody for being here. Appreciate it. We will be back Monday, and then tonight's Trump Frog, and tomorrow night's Ivan Rakin on the Colonel's Corner over on Rumble. So, oh, hold on. One last guy, Patriot Father with a name like that. I got to give you the mic, but you're going to be it. You're going to close this out. What you got?
I'm going to close it out with I literally just jumped in and heard you guys talking about the British wanting to extradite people for social media posts. When I saw that a couple of days ago, I commented underneath him and said, "Come and take them. You've tried this once before. Let's see if you can figure it out again."
That's a great point. I love it.
Come and take them.
I
come get them. Come on.
I love it. Very well said.
I missed the whole space. I just jumped in, and that's what I heard. I was like, I have to say that. 'Cause
Yes.
I seen that the other day. I was like, man, come take them.
God bless you. That's absolutely perfect way to close out the space. Thank you for doing that.
Amen.
I love you guys. Be safe.
Thank you. You too.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too. Thanks.
What you got on you? What you want? What you want? What you want? Hmm? Do you want to go somewhere? No. No. What are you doing? Oh my gosh, I forgot I was still on here. That's hilarious. See you guys later. Playing with my dog.